The reason my hairy ass is sharing this with you guys is because 99.9% of my life has been characterized by mistakes as well as failure. My job is to tell you lot to avoid making the same mistakes so you can get to even farther than I am in a shorter amount of time. Yes, I used to be a very amateur and bad drug dealer when I was 14. Now I am a doctor who holds 3 university degrees. To the high school kid preparing for final exams, the 40-year-old in a failing marriage surrounded by debt, the individual with a potbelly who doesn't know what direction to go in order to fix his physique, or the athlete gearing up to get the Stanford scholarship, I make a solemn pledge to all of you that this series will help improve your life if you take action instead of merely passively listening to my advice. This past fall has been a haven for life lessons. The struggle has taught me numerous things about myself and the circumstances around me. My routine subscribers may have realized that I have not posted content in some time. This was a well thought out and rational decision. To recap and let you guys know what's been happening in my life, I wrote the most challenging exam of my whole entire life, divided into 2 parts that took place on November 6th and November 9th. This exam was the pharmacy licensing exam. The exam would give me the right to practice pharmacy in Canada. This exam was no joke. It was around $6,000 and it tested all 4 years of pharmacy knowledge. I had to eat, touch, and smell drugs or be the Chad GPT of medications. To make things worse, I also take a break from my pharmacy studies before my final year of pharmacy school. I left after 3rd year of the program to do a 10-month MBA at the School of Business. A lot of knowledge I had dormant in my brain because I hadn't visited these concepts in years. First year stuff was just a blur. I couldn't even recall names of very common drugs. Asthma, COPD were hell. All my peers from my class, being I was the only one that actually did the MBA, they admitted that the knowledge was very ripe in their minds when they sat for the examination because they didn't really have a break. They just powered through, wrote the exam, had a month or 2 of revision. That was that. All my buddies passed. Also, even though the exams were at the beginning of November, I had to wait until December 19th for the results to come out. It was during this phase that I realized I would be the poster boy of an imposter if I failed these examinations. Who am I to give advice to you guys if I can't even manage my own affairs? I'm very grateful to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to announce that I have passed both parts of my exam. I celebrated the graduation of 2 degrees on November 26th and 27th, the MBA and doctorate of pharmacy, respectively. I drew a firm line to my family that there would be no celebration of my graduation. How much of an idiot would I have looked like if I was involved in celebrations if I didn't pass my exams? I stated that if there were to be celebrations, it would have to be when I received a confirmation of passing my exam. I also told you in the beginning of the video that I hold 3 degrees. Additionally, I hold a Bachelor of Science along with my Master's of Business Administration and Doctor of Pharmacy. I love to give younger guys advice because I wasn't fed a silver spoon in my life. I wasn't born smart. Teachers in high school used to remark to me how dumb I was and how I would end up in prison shortly after I left the school system. If you actually have a look at my academic history, you would see a very mediocre record. My grades and comments made the implication that I put minimal effort just to pass. I also was very unsuccessful in dealing marijuana at 14. And to top it off, I was a wreck physically and emotionally. My body was a shame, with 0 definition and muscle, with a very pudgy chest and stomach. When I think back of high school, I remember being the cop's punching bag and getting picked on by a lot of vice principals that just took me as another idiot that would fall through the cracks and be a statistic in the system. I look back with a lot of disgust, smoking dirty, cheap cigarettes and going through obstacles to get that really crappy nicotine buzz in minus 30 degrees weather. I had all the free time in the world, but I did not make lemons from an ounce of my surroundings. Looking back at the acne-ridden, angry young man I was, I realized the drastic variations that I had to implement to get to where I am. The reason I'm sharing this with you guys is simple. Any of you can make it if you are just willing to take the most important bet that you will ever take, and that being the bet that you take on yourself. I also acknowledge and appreciate that I had tremendous support from my beautiful wife, parents, God, colleagues, friends, and previous peers. I want to thank all of you watching this, as it does take a village to raise a child, and my successes have aspects of all of you embedded within its ingredients. Never get into the trap of thinking that you alone achieved everything. Thank the individuals who composed your life circle when you were the underdog. Once you think that you're great, despair and failure are the ugly demons that will tailgate you closely behind. From September to November, I became the true definition of a ghost. I planned a short mountain retreat with my wife on September long weekend. The minute I was back home, regulations and restrictions came into effect quicker than the COVID lockdown measures. I worked as a pharmacy intern across 3 different pharmacies during the summer, and I told them in advance that I would deliberately be taking time off to study. We worked out a deal that I wasn't going to completely let the pedal off the gas when it came to my work. I would work the last week of September and around 10 shifts in total in October, but they were short, disclaimer, so 4-hour shifts to help accommodate the craze of the flu vaccination season. I talked to Daman Daily. I'm sure you guys know him. If you haven't, please check out the podcast linked on this channel. Usually in the morning or night, he was the only person that I actually had regular contact with outside of my wife and parents. Disclaimer to you guys, I understand that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I really dislike when mainstream YouTubers tell young men to go ghost and chase their passions, when they blatantly ignore the individual's obstacles that are unique to them. For example, some of you may have children and may not afford to take the time off work. I am very fortunate that my wife supported me throughout my endeavors. I am sincere that I did not use mind-altering drugs such as Adderall or Vyvanse throughout studying. I will admit that I actually did have a prescription on hand in case I had to use it. I had the Vyvanse pills at home the whole time. I only used them once to study, but the insomnia was so bad that it ruined my sleep, which destroyed the next day. So remember guys, if you take a shortcut, it will have some ugly effects, whether it's a day later or a couple years later. Just keep that in mind. I'm very glad this occurred because it taught me and solidified that there are no shortcuts to the finish line. No matter how many get your life fixed in 2 weeks videos pop up on your newsfeed, let me assure you that these are just designed to captivate your attention, quote unquote clickbait. I'm saying that you have to make miraculous strides in order to achieve your goals. It won't be easy, but I can assure you that if you put in the work, the results will come. If you're like me and have some mental setbacks, then you may have to go more extreme than your class peers just to get the same results. I did some really weird stuff that won't be necessary for a lot of you guys, but it was what I had to do to pass. Stay tuned for the next episode when I detail step by step on how I achieve these feats. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe. It likes the algorithm. If this can get to just one kid and change their life, I'm very happy. And if they can keep in mind that I really had no genetic gifts, it's all hard work, I'm willing to say that that individual who takes my advice will live a better, more fulfilled life in the future. God bless.